Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world overflowing with noise, endless distractions, quick judgments, and fleeting connections. Yet, beneath all of that, every human heart carries the same quiet longing to be truly seen, to be deeply valued, and to feel an irresistible connection that goes beyond the surface. Tonight, I want to share with you a perspective on attraction and connection that isn't about tricks or games. It's about understanding human psychology, the nature of desire, and the simple, profound truths that create bonds no one can forget. If you can master these principles, not through manipulation, but through authenticity, you will not only capture someone's attention, you will capture their mind, their admiration, and their lasting respect. So let's begin this journey into the deeper psychology of connection, the kind that doesn't just spark for a moment, but lingers, shaping how someone feels every time they think of you. You know, most people make the mistake of thinking that attraction is purely physical. They assume that desire is born in the eyes in the moment someone notices your appearance, and that's where the story ends. But the truth is, lasting attraction, the kind that lodges itself deep in the mind and refuses to leave, is almost always emotional and psychological first. A man might be caught by what he sees, but he is held by what he feels. And this is where the real work begins. If you want someone to be drawn to you in a way that feels almost magnetic, you have to understand how powerful it is to be truly seen and understood. Most men walk through the world feeling largely invisible, not in the literal sense, but in the deeper emotional sense. Their struggles, their ambitions, their private doubts, these often go unspoken. Society rarely asks men what they carry inside. People admire their accomplishments or criticize their failures, but few stop to understand the inner landscape that drives them. So when a man encounters someone who listens, not passively, but with genuine curiosity, it is disarming. When he meets someone who can hear his words, catch the emotion behind them, and reflect back a sense of understanding, something inside him opens. And in that opening, connection is born. It is in these small, unspoken exchanges that real attraction begins to take root. Now, emotional connection is not about constant validation or flattery. It is not about pretending to agree with everything he says or becoming a mirror of his personality. That approach is shallow, and he will sense it. True emotional connection is about presence. It's about being fully there in the conversation, not mentally scrolling through your phone or rehearsing what you're going to say next. It's about listening to understand rather than listening to respond. And there is a subtle power in the questions you ask. A question that invites someone to open up says, I value your perspective. I want to know what drives you. That kind of invitation is rare, and it leaves a lasting imprint. When he realizes that he can reveal a part of himself and you will hold it without judgment, a bond forms that is not easily shaken. This is not manipulation. This is human psychology at work. We are wired to move toward the people who understand us and to pull away from the people who dismiss us. There is another layer here, one that many overlook. Emotional connection also depends on your own sense of wholeness. You cannot fully connect to someone if you are constantly seeking validation or approval. Men can sense that hunger, and it creates pressure rather than intimacy. But when you approach the connection from a place of stability and curiosity, when your presence says, I am interested in knowing you, not consuming you, you create safety. And safety, paradoxically, is the soil in which desire grows. Because desire does not thrive under pressure or fear. It thrives where there is freedom, respect, and the intoxicating sense of being truly known. When a man associates you with that experience, when he feels that he can take off the armor he wears everywhere else and simply exist without defense in your presence, That is when his attraction deepens into something far more powerful than surface level desire. And here's the reflection I want to leave you with. If you want to create a connection that lingers in a man's mind, become the person who actually sees him. Not the image he projects to the world, not the role he's forced to play, but the person underneath. Because when someone finally feels seen, truly seen, they do not forget the one who gave them that gift. There is a profound, often misunderstood power in the way a person carries themselves. Attraction is not just about what you say, it is in many ways about who you are in the room without saying a single word. This is the essence of presence. And for women seeking to create a deep and lasting pull, understanding the art of feminine energy is crucial, not in a superficial or performative sense, but in its most authentic and psychological form. Feminine energy is not about weakness or submission. It is about receptivity and alignment with your own essence. It is a quiet strength, a self-assuredness that communicates, I am at home in myself. When a woman embodies this, it changes the way others feel in her presence. People often think men are simply captivated by appearance, but in truth, they are profoundly influenced by atmosphere, the emotional environment you create when you enter a space. Think of it this way: in a world that is constantly loud, competitive, and chaotic, a woman who radiates calm, grounded confidence becomes magnetic. Her movements are unhurried, her voice is measured, and her attention is present. She does not need to fight for attention because as attention naturally flows to her, this is not something that can be faked for long because it stems from an inner alignment, a sense of knowing who you are and being comfortable inhabiting that identity fully. Presence is powerful because it bypasses the rational mind. You've probably had the experience of meeting someone who says very little, yet you cannot stop noticing them. They have gravity, and that gravity pulls you into their orbit. For men, encountering this kind of feminine presence feels like stepping into a different world, one that contrasts the noise and pressure of the external environment. It is soothing, yet invigorating. It awakens a desire to linger, to stay close to that source of calm energy. This is why self-awareness and self-care are not indulgences. They are prerequisites for magnetic presence. If you are constantly stressed, distracted, or desperate for validation, your energy becomes scattered. It projects neediness rather than confidence, and attraction withers under that weight. But when you cultivate practices that center you, whether it's meditation, journaling, creative work, or simply spending time in nature, you fill yourself up first. From that fullness comes a natural, unforced magnetism that cannot be imitated. There's also an unspoken psychological component to this. Men, whether they articulate it or not, are drawn to women who embody a sense of life in motion, a subtle, creative force. When your life is rich with purpose and your attention is not entirely consumed by the pursuit of someone else, you exude vitality. This is what makes presence irresistible. A woman who can be in the room without reaching for attention, without trying to fill every silence, communicates, I am whole and I am here. That is profoundly attractive because it reflects emotional security, a quality most people are unconsciously searching for. Now, this doesn't mean dimming your personality or suppressing your intelligence. On the contrary, it means channeling those qualities with intention. Instead of scattering your energy outward in a bid to be noticed, you allow it to flow inward and stabilize. You become the calm center in a storm, and in that calm, a man begins to feel safe. Safety, paradoxically, is what ignites his deeper curiosity and attraction because it allows his guard to lower. He begins to associate your presence with relief, with grounding, with an unspoken invitation to exist as he is. And here's the thought I want to leave you with. Your presence is your silent message to the world. It tells people who you are long before your words do. If you can master the art of simply being, rooted, aware, and alive, you won't need to chase attention. It will come to you, pulled in by the gravity of a presence that cannot be ignored. There's a strange paradox in human attraction. The more available something is, the less the mind values it. It's not because people are unkind or dismissive. It's because of the way the human brain is wired. We are drawn to pursue what feels slightly out of reach, what requires us to lean in, to wonder, to imagine. That is the essence of mystery and intrigue. In relationships and attraction, this principle is no different. If a man feels that he knows everything about you in the first few days or weeks, if every question is already answered, if there is nothing left for his imagination to explore, the energy of pursuit diminishes. Not because you are less valuable, but because the natural psychology of discovery has been short-circuited. Desire thrives in space. It needs room to move, to seek, to be curious. And mystery doesn't mean manipulation or playing games. It doesn't mean withholding affection or pretending to be someone you're not. True intrigue is rooted in having a rich, independent life, one that doesn't revolve around the other person. When a man senses that you are complete on your own, that you have passions, friendships, ambitions, and experiences that he is only beginning to glimpse, it awakens his curiosity. He begins to wonder, who is she really? What else is there to learn about her? Think about the last time you encountered someone who carried themselves with that quiet independence. Maybe they spoke confidently about something they loved, or maybe you noticed how they moved through the world with purpose. You felt pulled to know more, didn't you? This is the human instinct for exploration at work. It's the same reason we are fascinated by books with pages we haven't read or places we've never traveled. We are wired to pursue what is not yet fully ours to know. The practical application of this in your interactions is subtle but powerful. You don't have to reveal everything all at once. Share parts of your life, yes, but leave space for him to ask questions, to wonder, to participate in the journey of discovering who you are. And that discovery should feel earned. When a man has to step forward to learn more about you, it creates investment. It engages the part of his mind that is wired for pursuit and problem solving. There's also a psychological reason why this works. People value what they work for. Behavioral psychology calls this the effort justification principle. When someone invests energy into something, whether it's a project, a skill, or a relationship, they subconsciously assign it more value. If everything is handed to them without any effort, the brain simply doesn't register it with the same intensity. So by maintaining a life that naturally invites curiosity, you encourage the other person to step toward you rather than lean back in comfort. Mystery also requires boundaries, and boundaries are deeply attractive. They communicate self-respect and emotional strength. When you are not available 24/7, when you prioritize your own life and growth, you send a silent message. I am someone of value, and I honor my own time and energy. That message sparks respect, and respect is the foundation of enduring attraction. And here's the part that most people miss. Mystery isn't about coldness or detachment. It's about richness. A life full of meaning, passion, and curiosity naturally radiates intrigue. When you nurture yourself, when you live fully and chase your own evolution, you become a person worth knowing deeply. A man senses that being with you is not the end of the journey, it's the beginning of a captivating exploration. So the reflection I leave you with is this: if you want to create lasting intrigue, don't focus on withholding yourself. Focus on becoming someone whose life is compelling. When you cultivate depth, independence, and vitality, mystery follows naturally. And when someone senses there is always more to discover in you, they will never want to stop looking. If you've been listening closely, you've probably noticed a pattern in everything we've discussed so far. Emotional connection, presence, mystery, they all speak to something fundamental in human nature. Underneath all of our complexities, men and women alike are wired with a deep psychological need, the need to feel valued, to feel that who we are matters to someone else. And one of the most powerful ways to fulfill that need and to deepen attraction in the process is through authentic appreciation and admiration. Now, admiration is often misunderstood. People sometimes think it means flattery or a constant stream of compliments. But real admiration is much deeper than that. It's about seeing a person's potential and effort and acknowledging it with sincerity. When a man feels that you recognize his strength, his ambition, or his effort, even the quiet effort he doesn't broadcast to the world, it taps into something ancient and motivating. Psychologists would call this a form of positive reinforcement, but at a human level, it's about the deep craving we all have to be seen for our best selves. The truth is, most men rarely hear genuine admiration in their daily lives. They might get recognition for what they provide, for their work, or for their status, but very few people take the time to notice their inner world, the resilience it takes to keep moving forward, the sacrifices they make silently, the small victories that pass unnoticed. When you become the person who sees those things and names them, you create a bond that is far more profound than any surface-level attraction. He doesn't just like being around you. He feels a gravitational pull towards you because your presence awakens a version of himself he wants to live up to. But this comes with an important caveat: admiration must be genuine. People can feel the difference between a compliment meant to manipulate and a recognition that comes from authentic observation. This is why emotional intelligence matters. Pay attention to the moments when he demonstrates effort, integrity, or courage, no matter how small. Appreciate the intention behind his actions, not just the outcome. When you do this, your admiration carries weight because it's rooted in truth. There's also a subtle philosophical dimension here. When you admire someone, you are in effect saying, "See the best in you, and I believe in who you are becoming." That is a powerful statement because it speaks to the fundamental human drive for growth and self-actualization. People naturally want to be around those who hold a vision of them at their best because it reinforces their own striving toward that ideal. And notice how this principle interlocks with the previous ones. Emotional connection allows you to understand him. Presence allows him to feel safe around you. Mystery invites his curiosity. But admiration lights the fire. It gives him a reason to keep showing up, to invest emotionally, to anchor his attraction, not just in fleeting chemistry, but in the deeper satisfaction of being truly valued. Here's the beauty of it: you don't need to overdo it. A single moment of authentic recognition can echo in someone's mind for weeks. A thoughtful acknowledgement like, "I really respect how you handled that situation," or "I admire the way you never give up on what matters to you," leaves a lasting imprint. It tells him that in your eyes, he is more than just a role he performs. He is a man whose essence is seen and respected. And here is the reflection I want to leave you with as this journey comes to a close. Every human heart is quietly asking, do I matter to someone? When you can answer that question not with empty words, but with authentic attention, respect, and appreciation, you do more than create attraction. You create loyalty, depth, and a connection that lingers in the soul. Be the person who sees the best in others, and you will never be forgotten.